Believe in Clemson Football with LaVon Kirkland.
Pressure. Uh-oh. That's Kirkland. He's going to go all the way. What kind of game's this turned into? 47 yards for Von Kirkland off of a tip ball into the end zone. And that quickly, Mo can turn.
All right, welcome to Believe in Clemson Football with LaVon Kirkland. I am Will Vandervoort, your co-host, and the guy, the myth, the legend, the Clemson Ring of Honor member, LaVon Kirkland, here with us. And LaVon, how's your? I guess this is Wednesday for us, but how's it going for you?
Man, it's going well. Cannot complain at all. I actually went and got me some new sneakers for working out, so that was pretty cool.
There you go.
Dad, getting information for my grad class so I can finish this paper up. So been pretty busy, but overall a good day.
There you go. Look at you, man, getting your sneakers, working out, getting your grad class. The more and more I talk to you, man, the more and more I feel like I need to do more.
You have to be daily about it. I was just talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about goals, and we were talking about short-term, long-term. And I just said, I think if you can do the daily goals, you can reach your short-term and your long-term goals. I think sometimes we look too much into the future, and when we do that, we get overwhelmed. But I think if we can do it daily, we'll be a little bit better than that. So you're doing all that. So just do it daily. Just do it daily. If you can do it daily, you're fine.
Yeah, man, that's great advice and great perspective there. That's awesome, dude. I gotta, I'm trying to get myself in shape for this race I gotta run before Thanksgiving. So I'm trying to do that because I am going to gorge when I go to Thanksgiving meal. I can tell you that. That's gonna be gorging that week on turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce and pecan pie and pumpkin pie. I'm gonna do it all. So got a new oven, so I'm looking forward to cooking the turkey in the oven.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know you cook a Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, I could cook anything, man.
Really?
I've been blessed. I got my mom's gift for cooking. Me and my brother Kevin, we both have it. So we can cook anything. I love to cook. I love to barbecue. I like to eat home cooked meals. I always have been. I'm more of a home cooked meal kind of guy. So
yeah,
I like to get in the kitchen and get dirty sometimes.
I can tell you a former All-American that can cook like someone's grandmother. You would never guess.
Wow. Okay. Who do you?
Anthony Simmons.
Really?
Yes. When I had that one year when I went to Seattle, Anthony Simmons cooked Thanksgiving meal, the dinner, and it was like grandmother's. I'm telling you, it was awesome. The guy can cook. I always tell him, dude, you should have a cooking show. That's how good he is.
That's pretty darn good. Yeah, me and my brother.
Good, yeah.
When me and my brother talk, we always, we talk at least once or twice a week, and food always comes up, and we're always talking about what we're cooking, and whether. And so he did something different last night. I know Kevin's listening because he listens to our podcast every day. So he did something last night where he said that he took the pork chops. And so I don't know if, you've had country fried steak or cube steak.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how you put the brown gravy on it and you let it saute and it tenderizes it tenderizes the meat even more. And it's like you can – my brother's – he does it way better than I do. But with his country fried steak, you can really just cut it with your fork. That's how tender it is. Wow. And the gravy is out of this world. Tastes just like my grandmother's. And so last night he says, he's telling me this earlier today we talked. He says, hey, last night I tried something different, man. So I went ahead and he said, I fried the pork chops off and then he did the gravy. And then he did the gravy, except it's white gravy, like he does the dark gravy. and he let it saute and he let it simmer in the juices and stuff and the gravy. He says those pork chops were falling off the bone.
Wow.
He says they were so tender. I said, dude,
Yeah,
you
I got to get to know
sick.
your brother a little better.
Oh man, he can cook now. I'm gonna tell you, he can cook. I think I can cook, but he cooks better than me, in my opinion. But
Wow.
but I'm also more now. He'll tell you I'm more of the grill guy. So it comes to ribs, steaks, and then you do stuff like breakfast and stuff. I'm your guy. I can make all that stuff, but I can also cook up the fried chicken. I make better fried chicken than he does. So
See, I'm a simple cook. I just cook basic stuff.
you just do the basics.
I do basic stuff. I'm not the guy who will put his recipe or his food on Facebook.
Yeah,
that's not me. No.
I'm not either. Now I'll never put it on Facebook because it's mine. So people are like, "Oh man, your ribs are like awesome. I love them. What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you what I do. Right. This is my side.
I'm just,
I'm with you, man. Don't put it on Facebook. Definitely never put it on Facebook. But hey, so anyway, we got a good show. I've gotten hungry now all of a sudden. Now I'm hungry.
For real.
So let me pay some bills real fast here as we talk about our sponsor, and that is betonline.ag. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With an updated site and interface and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. So head on over to the website, betonline.ag, or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your bonus. Again, that's BLEAV to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Again, go to betonline.ag. BetOnline, where the game starts. And Levon, just kind of give people an idea of our show today. We got a couple things, got a couple guests coming on the podcast. Clemson men's basketball coach Brad Brownell will be with us here in just a little bit to talk football. He also kind of wants to take a dig at me and you, and we'll let the people when they hear know what that dig is going to be. But he's going to come on and talk a little football with us, and then of course we're going to talk a little basketball as well with him, as the Tigers are now gearing up for the season. They started practice last week, so they're a week into preseason workouts, and they're going to start their season on November the 9th against Presbyterian. That's a 7:00 tip at Little John Coliseum. So we'll talk to him about all those things, and we'll let him take his dig at both of us as well. And then the Clemson Insider's Davis Potter, who covers the Tigers on a daily basis, he's going to talk to us about Clemson and all the mess that's going on this week with as far as the injuries and stuff like that, and see if the Tigers can turn the corner as they hit the back half of the season, as they get back from the bye week next week, and maybe make a push for another ACC championship. So we'll have all that. But before we do all that, Levon, me and you got some business to take care of. And so just give people an idea, every week we do our power rankings on Wednesdays, and then we come back on Thursdays and we have our top 10s. And we'll do that here in a second. Just give you an idea, though, of the schedule, Levon, for the top 25 teams this week. Coastal Carolina, ranked 15th now in the country, is on the road against Arkansas State. Levon, they're a 20-point favorite against Arkansas State, who is 1-4. That game is going to be on ESPNU on Thursday night, a 7:30 kickoff. So we'll be able to watch that game on Thursday night. On Friday will be Temple and Cincinnati. Cincinnati now has moved into the top 5. They're right on the cusp of maybe making that college football playoff. Can a group of 5 team do it? Tell you, I bet you nobody thought they'll be doing it, but they're going to host Temple on Friday at 7:00. They're a 29.5-point favorite. And then Arizona State also on Friday night will play Stanford. They are a 13-point favorite. Arizona State ranked number 22 in the country, by the way. And Stanford, of course, coming off that big win over Oregon last week. And Levon, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I bet you 10-1 Stanford loses this game. What do you think? Because that's what Stanford does, right?
Yeah, I really love their Coach Shaw.
I do
and
too.
That was a big time win against Oregon because, Oregon was up there in the top 3 at one point in time, and now they kind of tumbled down. Yeah, Stanford, man, they do the best they can. They got they got one of those teams like Duke. Well, not like Duke, but
they're better than Duke.
Way better than Duke, but they got those guys with those really high GPAs,
Mhm.
and it's not always easy going out there to recruit their kind of guys. So I can see Stanford, tumbling down a little bit. They could they can have a hangover, like we always like to say. They
Mhm.
beat a big time team, and you're partying so hard about that thing, and then next thing you know, a team that you probably should compete with is beating you down. So yeah, I can see Stanford having a big old hangover.
I can too. And then of course Coastal Carolina, they just keep cruising right along, man. Undefeated, 5-0. I tell you, I know people say, well, they don't play anybody and all that, but man, they beat the snot out of everybody they play. So I don't think it matters who they play. And they proved last year they beat a top 10 undefeated Brigham Young team last year. I think
Mhm.
I think their program is as good as anybody's, I think, and I
I
put them up against anybody.
I guarantee you do not want to play Coastal Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want to play them in the middle of the season. They have an innovative offense. They got some players there. They really do. Coach Chadwell has done a tremendous job with that team, and that team is no joke. I guarantee you don't want to play them. They're
Mm-mm.
ranked 15th for a reason. And I always say, man, when you're playing and you're beating them down like they're beating them down, it really doesn't matter if your schedule is bad or not. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're playing on their level right now. I guarantee you, Clemson University don't want to. I mean, we don't want to play them right now.
Not right now. Not with
No
21
way.
guys injured.
No. We need to get stitched up.
Big time stitched up.
Yeah, we need to get stitched up. We're suffering right now.
So other games of note, of course, this is the Red River rivalry. I have to say that slow because of my W's and R's. The Red River rivalry is going to be a noon kickoff on ABC. Oklahoma is a 3.5-point favorite over 21 Texas. That's number 6 ranked Oklahoma. Maryland is going to the Horseshoe and is going to play Ohio State. That is a noon kickoff as well. The Buckeyes are 21-point favorite. Number 11, Michigan State is on the road. They're going to go play Rutgers. That is a noon kickoff. They're 5.5-point favorite. Big game in the SEC. The two teams with the hangovers are wondering. I think somebody I heard today kind of equivalent to the walk of shame for Arkansas and Ole Miss. This is the walk of shame game, which I love that tag.
That's a great one. I love it.
So they're playing at noon on ESPN. Ole Miss is a 5.5-point favorite. Arkansas coming off that 37-0 loss to Georgia, and Ole Miss is coming off that 42-21 thumping at the hands of Alabama. Number 20, Florida is playing Vanderbilt, so they'll get back on the winning ways. And then here's a game that quietly nobody's talking about. Number 2, Georgia goes on the road on the Plains to play their rival, Auburn. 3:30 kick on CBS. The Bulldogs are 15.5-point favorite. I think Georgia's the better team, but it's a rivalry game, LeVon. Auburn's a pretty good team. I think they could be undefeated. They're a play away from being undefeated themselves. They went to Penn State and played. They won't be intimidated by Georgia. You know what I'm saying?
No. No, they won't be intimidated, but I'm telling you, man, Georgia's kind of on a roll right now, but I still think their quarterback is their weak link.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I think if you can get after him a little bit and you can maybe confuse him with some coverages, I think you have a chance to beat Georgia, but that defense is so dominating, and that defense gives them opportunities to get the ball back. They're just really great against the run. So it's hard for me to see Auburn beating them, but I think they can keep it close.
Yeah, I think that's so too. I think that's a game to watch, and that might be on our picks come later this week. Brigham Young is hosting Boise State. That's number 10 ranked Brigham Young. Number 19, Wake Forest is on the road to Syracuse. 24, SMU is playing Navy on the road. Another big game, quietly, nobody's really that I've heard too much about. And I don't know why, because it's a top 5 game. Number 4, Penn State at number 3, Iowa in the Big Ten. This is college football playoff implications. This is for the Big Ten implications. This game is huge. A 4:00 start on Fox. Iowa just a 1-point favorite That's going to be a fun game to watch. I can't wait to watch that, man. That's going to be my afternoon sit-down game to watch. What do you think?
I mean, I can see why you want to sit down and watch it. I may be joining you, but maybe
Mhm.
not in the same place. But
Right.
I can
Watching the
see-
game.
Yeah, I can see me watching that game. I'm telling you, man, I need to find a way where I can just watch multiple games at a time.
Yeah.
Just watching one game and flipping over with the remote control, trying to catch the other game is just not going to get it done for me.
Yeah. I know you say you
I'm
want
going to write to my cable company about maybe having a way that it's just special for me. Nobody else gets this.
Well, they'll tell you there is one way you could do it. You can go buy a couple more TVs and buy a couple more cable boxes, and then they'll be more than happy to help you with that, Levon.
Oh, I'm sure they would be more than happy to help me that way.
And
Yeah,
then
but I got to find a way to watch multiple games in one sitting. I just can't do that right now. And I'm really mad about that.
I know I'm with you, man. I feel the same way, especially with some of these games this week. And then a couple other games. Michigan is at Nebraska. Notre Dame's at Virginia Tech. This is a pretty good one to watch out for. Number 16, Kentucky is hosting LSU. It's going to be on the SEC Network, 7:30 kickoff. They're a 3.5-point favorite. And then Alabama goes back on the road. They're going to go down to Texas A&M and play the Aggies. They're a 17.5-point favorite. And then, of course, San Diego State is the late game. They're hosting New Mexico at 9:00 p.m. So that's the top 25 look of games. We'll kind of go more into that later this week as we do our picks and things of that nature. But right now, Levon, I want to, if we could, man, do our top 10 picks.
Sure.
Every week we do our top 10, who we think in college football are the top 10 teams that we think, not what the polls say or nothing. This is what we think. So Levon, I'll go ahead and ask you right off the bat, who's your number 10 ranked team?
Believe it or not, I went with Kentucky. I thought that was a big time win that they had against Florida. Surprised probably a whole lot of people as far as that win is concerned, and they're 5-0 in the SEC. So I think you gotta bump them up to 10, and they jumped about 20 spots, but in my opinion, but that was an impressive win because if you see, I mean, this is not always connected. Things are not always connected, but you saw what Florida did against Alabama, and everybody was singing Florida praise about hanging in there close, and really probably had an opportunity to beat Alabama. So if Kentucky can do that against Florida, man, they are going to be very competitive, I think, in the SEC. And you never know. I don't know if they're going to win against Georgia in the East, but I put my Kentucky Wildcats where my in-laws live, and I give them all the way up to the 10th spot.
Well, I can see why you did that. Definitely playing well. They're doing a lot of good things. Sorry about that.
No problem.
They're doing a lot of good things right now, and that was a big win. And I do think they're the second best team in the East. There's no doubt about that. I'm with you 100% on that. So yeah, Kentucky, I see them right where you have them. Now, I, on the other hand, though, have Oklahoma State ranked number 10 in my poll. The Cowboys, another big win last week as they continue to just look like they're the best team, in my opinion, in the Big 12, kind of setting up that end of the year showdown with Oklahoma for that crazy game they always have down there. Bedlam is what they call it. So it's it's going to be interesting to see how that sets up. Those two teams right now are both, depending on what Oklahoma does this week against Texas, but it looks like maybe you could see the two undefeated teams there at the end. That'll be cool for the Big 12.
It would be.
To definitely get that would definitely assure them they're getting a team in the college football playoff. All right, so who do you got at number 9, Levon?
I'm gonna go with Michigan State.
Okay, got old Sparty.
Michigan State's 5-0, man, has some impressive wins. I really like the new regime they got there at Michigan State. They have, at one point, I would have to say that the last couple of years, not very good. And they have really turned it around. Their defense is really remarkable. They play extremely hard, so I put them at number 9.
I am with you 100%. Michigan State is my number 9 team also for all the reason you gave. I mean, they've done They've come in basically have taken transfers and have brought them in and have got them to work together, which is hard to do. And so is it a quick fix? Absolutely. He's still got a lot of players there from the other regime, but it's still most of the key players. I won't say most of, but some of the key players are transfers that they've got from other places. They've come in and right away they've helped that football team. They're a good football team. Where they fit with Ohio State and Penn State and Iowa, I don't know yet. We're going to find out here in the weeks to come, but they've definitely been one of the biggest surprises of this college football season. Who do you got at number 8, Levon?
Well, they're not undefeated, but they're 4-1. I got Ohio State. I know that loss to Oregon was kind of like, man, but those guys are on the rise. They are. They're playing a little better. Really did a great job last week in winning their football game. So I'm going to go with Ohio State, although they're 4-1 at this point in time.
My number 10 team is Brigham Young. They're 5-0. They're playing good football. They beat a couple of Power 5 teams. So they're a team that I think could be in that mix with Cincinnati when it's all said and done. Are they if they're undefeated? Do you consider them? Who do they're right there. They're not too far behind Cincinnati, in my opinion. They're a good football team, and considering that they lost Wilson, their quarterback, you thought they'd have a drop there, but they really haven't. They've really kind of just coasted along, and they're playing good football right now on both sides of the ball. And so I got Brigham Young number 8. Who's your number 17?
My number 17 is Wolverines, Michigan Wolverines. And although they've had some kind of, some inconsistent moments, they have shown a lot of resilience as far as being undefeated at this point in time. I mean, I didn't see them being in my top 7 at first, but I'm gonna give it to Michigan, 5-0, and going forward. And I gotta say, their defense. I think the defense is playing much better, and they're playing much smarter. At one point in time, they were just kind of man to man, no matter what. Now it's a little bit of mix up. Don't get it wrong. I think that Jim Harbaugh is still a hell of a coach, even though he's a little bit on the eccentric side. He's a really good coach. He knows how to motivate guys. He's done it on both levels. They just haven't been as good as Ohio State as far as Jimmy's and Joe's, but they're well coached. And like I said, they're being really steady right now, even though they're not as consistent as I would like, but not bad. I'll put them up there.
Yeah. So my number 7 is Oklahoma. And you talk about being consistent. They haven't been consistent at all this year on either the offensive side or the defensive side. And that's kind of been the issue with them. They find ways to win games. You give them credit. I thought that was a good win they got last week against Kansas State. Probably their best game of the season, in my opinion, to this point, because I thought Kansas State was the best team they've played at this point. And they went on. They went on the road, got a good win. Now they go play Texas, and we'll see a little bit more. That's why I got them ranked number 7, because, at one time this was my national champion, I thought, but they just have been so inconsistent. So I got them right now at number 7. They slipped another spot. I had them number 6 last week. So we'll see how they do. But all right. And also my number 6 team was your number 7 team, and that's Michigan. And I agree with you. I think they're a much better team on offense. And I think that's been the big difference for them this year. They are looking better the last couple of weeks defensively as well. So they're playing good on offense. They're playing good on defense. They're getting good special teams play. This might be the year that Harbaugh finally beats Ohio State. Do I say it? This might be the year. Michigan fans out there like saying, please don't say it yet. Let's see what happens. But they're playing better football overall right now than Ohio State is. And I like what they're doing. So. Yeah, so I got Michigan number 6. Who's your number 16?
My 16 right now, I'm going to put the Oklahoma Sooners. This team was supposed to be a juggernaut as far as the beginning of the season is concerned, but just hasn't really been looking that impressive, to be honest with you. But, they find ways to win. They're at 5-0 at this point in time. But I think the real test for them is going to be later on in the season. And then they do have to play Texas. That's going to be a statement game as well. But at this point in time, in the now, I got them at number 6.
All right. And who's your number 5 as we get into the top 5?
My number 5 team is going to be Penn State.
Nittany Lions.
The Wolverines, the Nittany Lions, man. I like the way they started off the season, man. That's a good win against Auburn in the SEC. I thought, they got a big opportunity. They really did. Iowa's going to be a big test for them, and Iowa looks super good to me.
Yeah,
they look super good to me. So, I got Penn State as my number 5 team.
My number 5 team is Iowa. They're looking really good too. I was kind of doubting Iowa for a while, but man, what they did last week and it's against Maryland, it seemed like they had an interception every time Maryland tried to throw the football. That secondary is for real at Iowa. I mean, it's got to be the best secondary in college football. And they cause a lot of problems up front too. They're a very physical football team. They don't have a dynamic quarterback. That's what worries me. But you know what? Neither does Penn State. So that's not going to hurt them in this game. That's going to be an interesting game as Penn State goes to Iowa. But Iowa is my number 5 team. Who do you got at number 4?
Believe it or not, I got Cincinnati at number 4.
Okay.
I think Cincinnati is a real player. And they proved that. I think they proved that to Notre Dame, especially playing Notre Dame at home at their stadium. So all those years when people are saying no, Cincinnati has no business being in there in the top 10, the top 5, they're showing everybody that they belong. So I gave them the number 4 spot. I think they deserve it. I think they belong there.
You know what? I'm with you on that because they're also my number 4 team. What they did Notre Dame was not a surprise to me at all. I thought they were the better team. I thought they're the more physical football team. They play outstanding on defense. That's why I love watching them because they're just nasty. I mean, they got after Georgia last year, man, and they nearly beat Georgia. They scored 24 points or 22 points on Georgia. That's 19 more points than Clemson scored. Against Georgia. Against a
very good defense too.
Against a very good defense. So, so they got a good quarterback. They got some playmakers. They're a team that needs to be reckoned with. I think they're a real good football team. By the way, my number 3 team is Penn State. I know you had them as your number 5 team. I like the Nittany Lions too because of that win against Auburn. They got a big win against Wisconsin to start the year too, but now we've seen Wisconsin, maybe not so good after all. They've lost 3 straight now. They're 1-3. So Penn State, we're going to find out something about the Nittany Lions this week, but they're my number 3 team. Now, who's your number 2 team? I think I got a pretty good – your number 3 team. I think I got a pretty good
My number 3 team would be the Iowa Hawkeyes.
We just swapping.
I mean, they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And
as far as their defense is concerned.
Yeah, we need the Pittsburgh Steelers to look like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think Pittsburgh Steelers has more trouble on the offensive side than the defensive side, but
I agree with you.
Nonetheless, I think Iowa's playing really good. Good defense, man. Defense carries. I mean, they're not really doing it lights out in offense, but they're doing it just enough. But I like this. It's fun to see defensive football.
Oh yeah,
it really is, and Iowa brings that to the table every single week. So I put them as my number 3 team.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Who do you got at number 2?
I got the Georgia Bulldogs, but in a lot of ways, I think maybe Georgia at this point in time they're playing a little bit better than Alabama. I think. I mean, but I'm gonna keep them at number 2.
So that means you got
the thing with Georgia, and it's been like this for several years, is that they tend to have a hiccup somewhere down the schedule. Georgia's not going to play well, but they seem to be rocking and rolling right now. I think they're going to go through the East. I'm not going to say simply because I think Kentucky may give them a little bit of a go, but I got Georgia at number 2. They run the ball very well. Their defense is just outstanding. It's hard to really get a drop on them. So at this point in time, I got Georgia as my number 2 team.
All right, and that means Bama is your number 1 team, who is my number 2 team, because I am the exact opposite of you. Bama got a great win this week, no doubt. But Bama still has some issues on the defensive side of the ball that I see creep up. And so they got a good win. They jumped out in front, but Mississippi still drove the ball on them. Mississippi still had opportunities. I think they just went for it too many times and kind of did the whole, well, let me just take a chance here kind of thing. Or let me go by what the analytics tell me, which was stupid. You got to go by the game. So, but Georgia has dominated everybody they've played, including Clemson. Clemson is the closest game they've had to losing. And let's be honest, neither one of us, we were there. Neither one of us thought they were going to lose to Clemson at any point in the game because of the way the game was going. And they just controlled the game. They controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides. They've done that to everybody they've played. I was really impressed with the way they came out against Arkansas and just ran the football really for the first time all year. They had their backup quarterback in. They took the pressure off of him having to make plays. That was huge. I'm with you. Quarterback is still an iffy thing with me. To be a number one team, to win a national championship, we've talked about many times on here, you have to have an elite quarterback. Alabama has that with Bryce Young, and I think that's the difference maker right now for them. But I charge us to say, what do we think at this moment, right? It's a snapshot of this moment. And right now, Georgia's the best team in college football at this moment. Does that mean that's going to stay that way? I don't know. But right now they are. I think they're playing just a little bit better than Alabama, not by much, but just a little bit, because I just think Alabama showed too many hiccups to be my number one team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Georgia is probably playing better in a lot of ways, but I think Alabama proved themselves pretty good last week against Ole Miss. And I feel like I couldn't drop them down, because it was a nice win against Ole Miss. It really was. And we thought Ole Miss may give them a little bit of a challenge, but Lane Kiffin got in the way of that, and they end up not playing as well as they possibly can. So I think that Alabama's still kind of deserves to be number one, but if they were to play right now, I would give the edge to Georgia.
Yeah, I think right now, if they played right now, that I agree with you. They're going to play. I think these two teams are going to play twice this year. I think they're going to play in the SEC championship game, and then the winner's going to go to the playoff as the number one seed. The loser's going to get in as probably the 2 or 3 seed, and they'll win that. They'll win that game, and they'll play them again in the championship game. There's no doubt in my mind that's what's going to happen. Because when you look at Georgia and Alabama 1 and 2, I mean, I think when you get to 3, which I have Penn State and you have Iowa, I think we both can agree there's a huge drop off right there, right? Like Penn State and Iowa are not in the same category as Georgia and Bama. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. I don't want to compare it to varsity to JV, but it's definitely first string versus second string. As far as Iowa and Penn State going against Georgia and Alabama is still, that's a difference.
There's a major
really
difference.
Is. Those teams will have to catch Alabama and Georgia on a really bad day. They would have to, but for now, man, Alabama and Georgia seems to be the teams to beat.
Yeah, that's the same way I feel, and so I believe if we're getting close here, well, see, we're getting Coach here just a second, so we're gonna have Coach Brownell on. It looks like in just a second. Clemson seems like they're getting him set up to join us here on the podcast, and we appreciate that. But now this Iowa, we'll talk about. We're waiting on Coach to jump in. This Iowa game with Penn State this week. They're hosting Penn State, number 3 versus number 4. You got a number 3 on your poll. I got a number 5. I got number 5. I got Penn State number 3 in mine. You got the Nittany Lions number 5. So we basically swapped those two in our polls. So we're gonna find out who's right? So I'm interested, Levon. How do you think that game's gonna go? Because that looks like that's gonna be what we like to call a good slobber knocker.
It's going to be a very tough defensive game. I really feel that way. But like I said, I think they're just playing at another level as far as defense is concerned. I think their defense is going to keep them in the game. And that's how I see it being. But I see it being very close. I can see it definitely being a 3-point game, coming down to the last field goal, seeing what happens. But I just like Iowa. And I like them because they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if they have a number 99 on that team, that would be even better.
That would be a whole lot better. And they do look like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they have those colors. I found out, and I have to tell the story to you sometimes. I found out why they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got that answer this past week when I was talking to Gene Sapikoff of the Charleston Post-Courier. So speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to have to take our medicine because we're going to bring in the guy now who knows all about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but in a way that me and Levon are not going to like on this one. Coach Brad Brownell, the men's basketball team, is joining us. Coach, thanks for joining us, and please go easy on both of us.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I don't know that I want to brag. I don't know Levon that well, and I feel bad. But, man, I want to give it to you. I can tell you that for as much as you give it to me in these last 10 years, it's been pretty hard on me. It was a –
You should give it to us, Coach. Let's hear
it. It was a nice –
We deserve it. Let's hear it.
Well, it was just a nice run-of-the-mill win. You know what I mean? We just kind of did what we do. And we got Joe Burrow now who's got us to 3-1. And, I mean, you all are having a little bit of a tough year. So, I've already given Coach Bender a hard time. Coach Bender's a huge black and gold fan, and huge. You know that. Levon doesn't, but Coach Bender on my staff is diehard Pittsburgh Steelers, diehard Pittsburgh Pirate man. He grew up. He's been, 50 plus years of that. So he's and he all he does is point to his fingers and remind me of the rings that y'all have.
Rings,
so I get that. That's about as good a comeback as there is. I understand. I'm just a regular season win over the Steelers is good for my Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
Now, Coach, can you tell us how you became a Cincinnati Bengals fan? Of all the teams in the NFL.
Well, it could be worse. It could be Cleveland.
Well, my parents grew up.
Are you from the Ohio State? I mean, are you?
No, my parents are from Ohio. I grew up in Southern Indiana, and the Colts weren't in Indianapolis when I grew up. I'm old enough that we didn't have the Colts. So my dad is from Dayton. My mother's from just outside of Cincinnati. So I grew up. They were both Bengals and Reds fans, and so it was pretty easy to be a Reds fan growing up in the 70s with the team. And I'm loyal now. If anything, I'm loyal. I'm probably stubborn. I'm loyal. And so those have been my team since my childhood. I stick with them. It's been extremely painful here lately, though.
Hey, Levon, here's a great story, though, I told Coach a few years back. So we're up at this is when I was working with Hip Tay Media, and I was able to travel with Coach and the team a lot. And so we're up there, and we're in the hangar waiting. Clemson just beat Dayton in the tournament, and they're going to Tampa, and it was a big win, and everybody's happy. And so I go up to Coach. I tell Coach Bender what I said. Coach Bender's like, "Oh, you got to go tell Coach that. You got to go tell Coach that now." So I go up to him and I say, "Hey, Coach, I just want to let you know, man, it's so cool coming up here and getting to experience this and coming into Ohio and getting a win like this because it's true." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, he's like, "Well, thanks, Will, and all that, And I said, "Well, it's true. Like, I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler, and I love coming into Ohio and getting a win." And he's like, "Get out of my face." In a nice way.
It happens most years.
That's why, hey, Coach, that's why I told you to give it to us because Will is going to talk so much trash. So this is your opportunity. It may not come along in quite some time, so you need to give it to us at this point.
Well, I'm excited. We're going to play again, and I feel very confident, man. Your boy Ben, he's struggling back there right now.
Yeah,
Ben is struggling.
But you know what, Coach? I'm going to take a guy who's got 2 Super Bowl rings anytime.
I got it. We got the future. We got the future over there.
You do. I do. I like Joe Burrow. I like him. I like his savviness, and I wish he would be playing for us when Ben retired. I'll be honest with you. He's a heck of a player. Coach, real fast, and then we're going to talk about basketball. Clemson football this year, just your thoughts. I know Dabo's a good friend of yours, and you guys, I love it when you guys go on the road for Iptay stuff. That's always fun to see you guys there. Tell me, your thoughts on the team, and how have you talked to Coach Sweeney? And I'm sure you've had to. Usually, maybe he has to call you to cheer you up, but you're having to do that to him this year, aren't you?
Yeah, I've sent a couple supportive texts. And you know what? I'm sure it's been a little bit more challenging. I think all the injuries are way more difficult than people understand. It's, the amount of injuries we've had years like that in basketball.
Mhm.
Obviously, you have guys who are playing, hurt. The year after we went to the Sweet 16, Shelton Mitchell basically played the whole senior year with a bad left knee and really couldn't do the types of things that he did his junior year. And he's out there and he's trying to be the same player, and you're just not. And I know there's some guys out there playing hurt for Clemson, and then you got all the guys now that are out. And, the ACL tears here now. I guess Will Taylor's the most recent. It's, you're talking about rhythm and timing and all those challenges. Justin Ross coming back after major injuries. Everybody's, I'm sure, offensive guys, everybody's a little bit frustrated, but, the staff has done an unbelievable job in terms of keeping the kids competing. They're competing at a high level. They are playing extremely hard, and when you're not playing well, that's not easy to do. It's easy to become frustrated. It's easy to point fingers at one another. And that's why, that's where you see the Clemson football culture is there's a pride in the program. The kids are still fighting like crazy they don't want to disappoint. They don't want to disappoint each other. They don't want to disappoint their coach. They don't want to disappoint the fans. There's a lot of pride in the program and all the success. And it's just, some years it's just tougher. It's just your margin for error isn't as big, and you make a couple of mistakes. You have a drop. You run a route the wrong way. You overthrow a guy when he's open. It's just a couple of plays that change everything. But they found ways, to still battle and eked out a tough one there against Boston College. Obviously had some chances at NC State, didn't quite get that one done. The Georgia game was just one play changes that game with the interception. Neither team could really score. We could have played for days there, and neither team might have scored an offensive touchdown. The defenses were just so good. Both teams were healthy. It was the beginning of the year. That's tough. But, a lot of pride in their program. Those guys are getting it figured out. I wouldn't be shocked if somehow find a way to win the ACC. NC State could very easily, close. It won't be easy for them to close. It won't be easy for them to finish the season with all these wins. And if they stumble twice, I wouldn't be surprised to see us back in the ACC title game.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw, Coach, where I was going with that. And what I meant, obviously, was about the injuries that you can relate because you've had those tough injuries that Dabo and them that they really haven't had here in the last several years. And this year, it seems like it's been one blow after another. And you understand that bad luck because you've had it. And that's kind of, you saw where I was going with that question. And it was regard to Coach Swinney. He's had to call you, say, hey, keep your head up. Things are going to get better. And this year you've had to do it with him with some of these injuries because it's been so many. 21 injuries, Coach. 21, 7 guys out for the season.
Yeah, and that's obviously you don't plan on that, and then you're constantly adjusting off of that, which isn't easy to do on the fly, right? It's not easy to make those adjustments and then to play as well. And guys get hurt in the first quarter, second quarter of a game, and you got to figure it out, and things happen. And I think Dabo would tell you there have been some times in this great run, these last 5, 6, 7, 8 years or whatnot, where we've probably had a few good breaks, right? Where, NC State missed a field goal late to beat us in Death Valley. And, we've made a couple timely plays and then there's going to be some times when things even out and it's challenging. And you just got to battle through it. And so, there's no question they're doing that. Guys are getting better.
Oh no. Coach dropped off on us there. He was talking about Coach Swinney and kind of Levon, Dabo has been very good with and to kind of go with where I was going there. Dabo has always been like, hey, when he had a couple of injuries where he had players like he lost 2 starters. In basketball, you lose 2 starters to injury for the year. It kills you. And Dabo has called them up and, hey, man, just keep your head up. Things are going to turn around. You guys are going to be able to get better, and you're going to get better from this down the road. And so that's kind of like, where I was going with that, with it, and Coach was answering it there, is like, Dabo's now had to do it, and he's had a couple bad injuries. It kind of flips like that, and you go years without having any, and then you have a couple years where it seems like everybody gets injured.
Yeah, like I said before, sometimes it's kind of unfortunate. You go through those years when you're struggling a little bit as far as winning, and then it seems like the injuries kind of piled on. And we talked about this before. Clemson has been very fortunate in the past few years without having a whole bunch of injuries.
Right.
They've been really healthy going into November, going into the playoffs, pretty much with everybody intact. And this year it's just not that way. And I really can't put my finger on it why it happens, but it does happen. And usually teams that are struggling usually go through the injury bug where everybody's getting hurt. I don't know if because they're playing too long. We even thought that, the game they played against Georgia Tech, I mean, not Georgia Tech, but North Carolina State. It was a Georgia Tech or North Carolina State where the defense was just on the field entirely too long. And I think that really contributed to some injuries that they had. So, yeah, man, it's hard to explain when you got 17, 20-something guys on the injury list. And they're so fortunate that they had the bye week this week. They really are, because they would really be limping into Syracuse on a Friday night, which is not the best thing in the world. We got bit the last time we played them on a Friday night. So maybe this time it will be a little bit different. We get some guys back, and we can play a lot better than that time we played them before.
All right, Coach, you back with us?
I'm back. Doesn't surprise me. We win, and so you guys kind of shorten the show on me. I get it.
Yeah, that was intentional. You caught me. You got me.
Hey, Will, Will and Coach, I was going to say is the Cincinnati Bengals curse.
That's right. You might be more right, Levon.
Yeah, the curse.
You're probably more right. That is probably what happened. No doubt about it.
Oh, man. Well, we're back with Clemson men's basketball coach Brad Brownell as he joins us here on the podcast. And, Coach, thanks for joining us again. And, man, we'll kind of get it just in case something happens again. I know you're a busy guy, and LeVon's a busy guy too. Me, I'm not so much. So I'm really at your guys' timetable. So we'll try to get this going here. So, in case something happens again, you'll at least have a chance to talk about your team. Coach, last year you lost Amir Sims, 13 points, 6 rebounds per game. Guy was all ACC, one of the best players Clemson's ever had, to be honest with you. I love watching Amir play the game. And also, Coach, I love to say this, one of the best people I've known too. Yeah. He's just a great young man, great ambassador for Clemson. How do you replace a guy like him and Clyde Trapp and Jonathan Baird, the 3 guys that were your leaders last year?
Yeah, you're not going to replace and Amir Sims with one player. That's just not going to happen. He was the only player in ACC history to, I think, lead his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals 2 years in a row. So he had a remarkable career, a guy who really developed as a player and grew, and a guy we're really proud of, battling to make a spot with the New York Knicks, and hopefully that'll happen for him. But you gotta develop more guys. You got to continue to coach the guys that are in your program, the PJ Halls of the world, a talented young big guy that we recruited out of Spartanburg, who played behind Amir last year, played about 10 minutes a game. But, he's going to have opportunity to take a big step, and I think he'll do that. He's had a great summer. He's kind of changed his body. He's transformed his body. He's 240. He's big. He's strong. He's lean. He just needs some more reps and more confidence, which will come in time. But he's very talented. He can shoot the ball. He can rebound the ball. He's big and strong around the rim. And again, he just needs more game experience, which he's going to get plenty of that this year. And I look for him to have a big year. We brought in a couple of grad transfers because you're trying to always stay a little bit older if you can. Mm-hmm. And with Hunter Tyson being our only true senior 4-year guy, we went out and got a couple of guys that we think can help. David Collins is a 6'4", 215-pound wing that started for 4 years at South Florida and had a really nice career. And, led them in scoring and is a guy that can attack the basket and get fouled and rebound the basketball and do some great things at the wing. I think he'll really help our team in terms of the loss of Clyde Trapp. And Naz Bohannon, who's a kid that came from Youngstown State, a very productive player there at 6'5" and 235 pounds, who can kind of a slasher, a physical guy that can play both forward positions and has experience. And I think that's something that our team needs. We need some more experience. I think those guys will do some things for us to help Hunter Tyson, who I expect to have a really big senior year. Hunter played very well last year, was playing very well at the end of the season, coming off an injury where he really had a broken bone in his face when he got kneed in the face in the middle of last year. But he's a guy that continues to get better and I think has grown throughout his career, shoots the ball really well from three, has size, has rebounded it well. Those guys are going to do some of the things that Amir did for us over the next season or so. And, I'd be really remiss if I didn't just comment on last year's team, man. I'm so proud of those guys to have the kind of year that we had. Unfortunately, it probably ended a little disappointingly with the ACC tournament and NCAA tournament losses, but man, to go 16-8 and to have some of the wins we had and to battle COVID and have 2 stops during the COVID pandemic, and just for our guys to come together the way they did and play really good basketball. It's unfortunate. I think we were 11-1 at home last year. And, I sure would have rather done that with 9,000 fans in Littlejohn, getting a chance to watch all the good basketball instead of the 1,800. But, and that was a fun year last year to coach that team. That group of guys was outstanding and played really hard and defended well. And just, it was a fun team to coach. And I think this team will build on that. We've got good positive momentum and energy, and we've got guys that have been a part of some successful teams here, and looking forward to getting started here soon.
Hey, Coach, I'm gonna have to say now, I watch Clemson basketball a whole lot, being a football head.
He does,
and
Coach, trust me.
And I'm going to make this statement. I think you do a very good job of making Clemson basketball competitive. Yeah. And I want to ask you, how you possibly do that? Because I was here doing some lean years, and always want the team to do well. I just wonder, what's your formula? Just bringing guys in, especially maybe guys who are junior college or guys who've been on other teams. How do you continue to make this team so competitive, especially when you're going against the likes of UNC, also Louisville?
Well, I tell you, I think the biggest thing, I think we have a good culture here. I really do. It's behind me here. A culture of commitment is what we preach with our players, and that's a belief in one another and a commitment to one another to be the best type of person we can, to be the best version of ourselves in terms of our work ethic, and then being about the team, willing to sacrifice and do what's necessary. And, we've been able to recruit a great brand of kid here. When we get great young men that do the right things and good students and graduate and care. I mean, they really care. They care about Clemson. They care about winning. They care about each other. And I think that fosters itself, and you just kind of begin to build on it. And, we're trying to get to the next level. It's a really challenging step. You mentioned some of the great programs in our league that have more tradition than we do. But we just try to come together and overcome some of that. And, I think we try to play with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder and certainly have pride in what we're all about and who we are. And I think we've been pretty consistent over the years. We're not at the level we want to be, but we've done a decent job of staying relevant, being consistent, kind of being in a position to gain postseason play just about every year. And now we're just trying to be a consistent, NCAA type tournament team. And I think it's recruiting the right kind of kids and getting the kids to buy into one another and what we're trying to do to be the best versions of ourselves. I think we've been able to do that for the most part these last several years.
Yeah, Clemson men's basketball coach Brad Brownell joining us today and talking about the Clemson basketball team as the Tigers started practice a few weeks back, and now they're getting ready for the season opener on November 9th against Presbyterian at 7 p.m. Coach, you got Alamir Dawes back. You got Nick Honor back. You got Alex Hemingway. You've already mentioned Hunter Tyson. who, by the way, when I was doing my homework earlier today, I didn't realize he shot 43% from 3-point range. Oh my goodness, that's sick. You can get that again from him this. Yeah, you can get that again from him this year. You guys are going to be in good shape. But
yeah,
I like what you got at guard, and I know the concentration, as you mentioned, was to bring in a couple more big guys. You brought in a freshman this year that you think is going to help you guys. He actually was supposed to be next year, but in Ben Middlebrooks. Tell me a little bit about the young guys coming in and what you expect and how they can help, because you're really guard heavy and you needed to take care of the post, I guess. And especially after you do Amir.
Well, we are. I mean, I think we have a good backcourt. Nick Honor, Alamir Dawes, Alex Hemingway, Chase Hunter. Those guys have been with us now. This will be their third year. They're experienced. They've been a part of some really big wins, beating top 10 teams in this building and going to NCAA tournaments and doing some great things. And so having those guys back really settles us a little bit. They play well off of each other, all a little bit different, which I think helps. Where we're thin is in the front court. And obviously, losing Jonathan Baird, Amir Sims, two seniors that are 6'10" and 6'8" and good play. We knew we had some young guys there that we're going to recruit and bring in. And one of the reasons we got these guys is because they knew they're going to get a little bit of an opportunity. And so PJ Hall, we've talked about. Ben Middlebrooks is 6'10" and he's up to 232. He's put on 10 pounds since he got here already this summer. Looks good physically, very competitive, big physical rebounder, and a guy that can make a three and will improve as he gets experience. But we really like his competitive fight and the way he competes underneath the basket. Ian Shiflin is about a 6'8", 225-pound forward center that has actually lost 15 pounds when we got him. He's been here and we got him to lose some weight, to be a little bit more mobile. He can make threes. He shoots the ball really well from the perimeter. He has a great feel for the game. He's a good passer. He's a good rebounder. He's a guy, as he gains experience, I think is going to be a really good player at Clemson. And so, they all have a lot to learn. There's a lot going on. The defense at this level is so much more challenging, and the physicality for big guys is a big adjustment. But we really like those guys. And then Josh Beadle's another freshman guard that we signed that's about 6'3", and he's gained about 10 pounds. He went from 167 to almost 175, 177 right now. And he's just a really good athlete that can play a couple different positions. He can shoot the ball from three, handles it. He's a good slasher, used to winning. He's won some state championships. So we really like our freshman class. They won't be the primary guys. The primary guys will be the older guys that we talked about. I think PJ Hall as a sophomore will be the one young player that we're going to probably count on as a starter and a guy who will play, significant minutes every night. The other guys will kind of work their way into it, but feel really good about those guys and their development and their commitment to being better.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you, how tall are you, and do you think you can get me that jacket that you got on in my size and ship it down to me?
You know what? We're gonna find. I don't think this particular jacket, although I'm a bigger guy than most people realize. I'm 6'4". I'm not gonna give you my weight because I don't want to embarrass myself.
Yeah, hey, trust me, Coach. I have gone through my whole pro career, and people ask me about my weight, so I understand. I'm sensitive to that. Your
shoulders are about twice as big as mine. I wasn't big with that. I didn't get that kind of physique.
My shoulders are wide. It's nothing I can do about that. I tell people, what can I do about my shoulders?
We could have turned you into a heck of a low post rebounder and scorer down there if you'd have gone with us.
I'm telling you, Coach, if I was a little taller, if I wasn't 6'2", I would have been a really, really good power forward. I'm telling you.
I don't doubt. And I tell you, we are going to send you some Clemson basketball gear. I'm going to send you some gear, so we make sure we get that. When we get off here, I'm going to make sure I get your address, and we're going to get some gear to you. There's no doubt about it.
All right.
That would be tremendous. That really would be. Coach, I just kind of wonder, when you're out there recruiting, and you got all this competition with all these different universities that have great basketball tradition, especially when you're talking about the ACC. What are you looking for in a basketball player?
Yeah, it's a good question. Really, it's a lot of different things. each year is different based on your need. The one thing that's so much different about basketball recruiting than football recruiting is football recruiting. I mean, those guys are bringing in 20, and we're bringing in 3, maybe 4 most years. So you really got to get more specific, to meet the needs that you have within your program. So first thing is you got to find your needs. Obviously, there's a certain level of talent, athleticism that you're looking for guys to be able to compete at this level. There's a lot of guys that can stand around and make a driveway jump shot, but you don't get many driveway jump shots here. You got to be athletic enough to run around and shoot on the move and do different things that the athleticism surprises people, the speed, the pace. So even a guy like Alex Hemingway on our team, who, we signed a couple years ago, and he's 6'3", 175 pounds, skinny, narrow-shouldered kid from Southern Indiana. The thing he can do is he can really shoot that ball, but he can shoot it on the move, and he can shoot it with an incredibly quick release. And so there's a certain level of athleticism or skill that you have to bring that makes you different, that separates you a little bit for the level. We're never going to compromise on the 3 things behind me. We integrity, work ethic, and sacrifice. We really want good kids. We want kids that fit Clemson, kids that are about the right things, that are about team, that want to work and develop. We're a developmental program. We're going to get some good players. And I think, in the last 4 to 5 years since we've had this new facility, our recruiting is on an uptick. We're able to get a little bit higher quality player. We're able to beat more schools than we were able to beat in the past, other head-to-head against some other ACC schools, and win those battles. But we still want to make sure we find kids that fit Clemson. And I think when we do that, when we find the right kind of kid like an Amir Dawes, who embraces this culture, embraces this university, this environment, the small college environment, the family environment, when we're recruiting kids that are looking at the whole package, not just basketball, when the family situation is important, academics are important, that's when we've been able to go head-to-head with good people and win those battles. Sometimes when it's just about basketball, when it's only the NBA or it's only a basketball, they don't appreciate all that Clemson has to offer. Those types of recruiting situations are more challenging for us. And so we really try to dive into it and do a good job in our investment of the recruits.
Clemson men's basketball coach Brad Brownell joining us here today. And Coach, I want to go ahead and ask you, because of this schedule, I was looking at it earlier, and you guys start off the season November 9th against PC at 7:00 at Littlejohn. But you got to go to the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic on November 18th. I know that's going to be fun because you guys love going down to Charleston. I know St. Bonaventure is going to be there, as well as Boise State. Then on November 30th, you got a rematch with Rutgers from the NCAA tournament game in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. You open up ACC play on December 4th against Miami. Then you got the Gamecocks on December 19th. Then you get back into ACC play on December 29th. I don't know, by the way, you got to go to you get to host North Carolina. You got to go to Duke. Man, this is that schedule doesn't sound fun at all. That's basically what I'm getting to, Coach. Can you talk to me about
challenging? There's no doubt about it. It's a challenging schedule, and even some of the schools that people don't recognize quite as much, are really, they're good mid-major programs. They're teams that are competitive in their leagues and have chances to win their league. And obviously that's why we're trying to play them, is to try to put together a resume that can, give you an opportunity to make the tournament. And, it's a team like Drake in Atlanta. Drake, got an at-large bid last year out of the Missouri Valley, top 100 team in the country. And so there's some games on there with some teams that people won't recognize, as well as the ACC schedule, which is about as difficult as it can get. The first 4 or 5 games for us are incredibly difficult. But that's good. It'll test us early. It'll let us know where we are. We'll be able to make some adjustments. I think this is a team that will improve and continue to improve throughout the year. We played a great schedule last year. We opened the year with Mississippi State and Purdue, and then had Maryland and Alabama in the first month of the season, and had some tremendous wins that really, got us off to the great start and spearheaded what was a very successful season. Hopefully the same will be true this year.
Because you got to take me through the North Carolina victory in Chapel Hill. When that buzzer went 0-0, tell me the feeling, because we have we've been so close a lot of times
That's
beating
right.
North Carolina there. And for you to get that victory,
Yeah.
man, tell me how that felt for you.
Yeah, you know what? It was unbelievable. I just got asked on another podcast to name, 3, 4, 5 things in coaching that are your all-time favorite moments. And, I talked about, hey, taking a mid-major team to the NCAA tournament is an incredible experience. Winning the gold medal here for Clemson at the World University Games in 2019, a couple of the NCAA tournament wins that we've had here in Sweet 16, that was all good. But the North Carolina win in Chapel Hill ranks right up there. I mean, it was an incredible day, an incredible comeback by our team. Obviously, I've been up there 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times before we've won it. But everywhere you go, especially when you went to North Carolina, I've had more people than you can imagine. Coach, I'm 63 years old. I'm retired, this, that, and the other, Clemson fan. Am I ever going to see us win in Chapel Hill in my lifetime? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what else we accomplish. If you can just get that done for me, that I'll be able to rest in peace. And
Right.
I've watched national championships in football. I've seen this, I've seen that. I need to be able to rest in peace knowing that we've beaten Chapel Hill in Chapel Hill. And so, I mean, there's probably 100 people that have pulled me aside at a prowl and growl when I'm just recruiting out in the middle of North Carolina somewhere down here in South Carolina. Somebody will stop me and they'll want to ask that question. Coach, you've done this or that, but when are we going to beat them? Well, we finally got it done. And you could tell the first thing I screamed went, "It's over." That's what I said when the buzzer sounded. I just screamed, "It's over." And it's like, let's get this monkey off our back. I'm tired of being asked about it by every media every year. And then even in the off season when you deal with the North Carolina media. So it's just something to get past. Now we can move on to bigger and better things, but no question that was an incredibly fun day, big win, and a proud moment for us.
Coach, let's give you a story. I'm mad with the Atlantic Coast Conference about that. When it was announced you guys were going to play them on that day, I immediately called up some people in the ACC and said, "What are you guys doing?" This is a true story. And I said, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, the chances are very good that Clemson football is going to be in the national championship game in New Orleans. And I'm like, and none of the Clemson media is going to be there. And this might be the year they can do it. And this is not fair. You guys did this intentionally because you didn't want anybody covering it from the Clemson end. And they're like, no, that's not it. And then when it happened, I called them all up and said exactly what that, but let you know, Coach, in the media room in New Orleans, all the Clemson media there, they had this big screen and they had the game on and we're all watching it. And Coach, we all celebrated with you guys. It was awesome. We were all jumping around celebrating because, man, we have been there too. I'm 0-11 in Chapel Hill, so I still don't have that. So you got to get that monkey off my back so I can see you guys win a game there.
Well, I can tell you this: you may have celebrated, but you didn't celebrate as much as I did that night. I might not have felt great the next morning.
Coach, I don't know. Coach, I don't know. Well, some people that I know that were down there, and let's just say a few adult beverages were made that night.
Exactly. I'll tell you this now. This was something that was really cool. Is obviously I got a million text messages from all different kinds of family and friends and people that I know, and a lot of Clemson folks, but I also got a lot of videos from people like down in a hotel or two, and they're in a bar or wherever they were down there watching the national championship in New Orleans, and they're showing all the Clemson people celebrating and toasting. And I probably had 5 to 10 videos of people who were down in New Orleans sent it back to me. So that was, I clearly enjoyed that on the trip back home, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I actually, because I said a few choice words when I was celebrating, and I won't repeat them here, but you know me well enough to know what those words probably were. And so Bonnie Bernstein and Andrea Adelson from ESPN were at another table next to me, so I had to go over and apologize. And I told them, I said, "Ladies, I've been waiting 45 years for this moment, so I'm sorry that I had to let it all out, though." And they got a good laugh and said, "Don't worry, Will, we understand."
Hey, Coach, I watched that game over and over and over and over again. It was a long time coming. It was I celebrated that win. I thought it was tremendous. Thought you guys did a great job coming back.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think you've done a very consistent job, and I'm just a big fan. I'm a big
Well, I
fan.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. You know what was great is we really didn't play very well in the first half. We just kind of hung in there and then, made a couple steals and made a play at the end to get it to overtime. But the way we played in the 5 minutes in overtime, that was remarkable. Obviously, the three play that we had set up to get Amir a shot, at the end to tie the game and send it to overtime, and then to the plays that we made in overtime, our kids played with such confidence and unbelievable execution to execute that way, because we all felt pressure, right? I mean, there was pressure. The kids feel it. They're always asked about it. And, you never sneak up on North Carolina. That's always one of the things that was hard about the game, is like, you're never going to sneak up on them because they didn't want to be the first team to ever lose, right? And so that we always got a pretty good attempt by them in the game. They always came ready to play, and so it was a hard game. And but the way our guys finished the game and executed down the stretch was something that, as a coach, makes you even really proud of your guys. So it was a fun night for sure.
It definitely was. So, Coach, I know you're a busy guy and you got stuff to do. I appreciate you joining us, man. And I hope you'll come back later, even when Cincinnati does lose to Pittsburgh.
Well, I got a feeling you guys might invite me back if my Bengals don't hold serve on the next game as well. I got a feeling you guys might want to have me back and talk about a few things, but that's okay. I think we're going to be fine. I'm excited about it.
We might just do that. Well, Coach, thanks so much for having us. That's Clemson men's basketball coach,
Thank
Brad
you,
Burnell.
Coach.
Thanks
We
for
really
joining us,
appreciate
Coach.
it.
We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you. Nice to meet you, Levon.
Nice meeting you too, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, that's Clemson men's basketball coach Brad Burnell joining us on the podcast today. And Levon, that was great, man, to hear him talk about that win. I call it a championship because it felt like it. But
man,
that win
so
over
good, man.
over North Carolina and Chapel Hill, I never thought I was going to see it. But when Amir
Honestly, it would
Sims
have been better, Will, if
What?
we won the national championship too.
right after it, yes, yeah.
Yes.
And the funny thing about it, the Clemson people, this is the night before the game, right? This is the night before the game. And the people in Clemson were celebrating like all this, and the LSU people were asking us, like, what's going on with these Clemson people? What are they doing? Like, why are they like jumping up? And I said, they beat you didn't guys hear they beat North Carolina in basketball for the first time ever in Chapel Hill. They're like, oh, well, that explains it. They're like, well,
Yeah, man.
they hope this is the only celebration they have this week. And of course, that was the case.
Yeah, it was a long time coming. It was really good to see.
It really took the sting, I think, for a lot of Clemson fans off the national championship. I think they were disappointed. Obviously, they
Yeah.
lost the national championship, but to beat North Carolina on that same weekend, Levant, I really did think the people that were down there, that it sort of took the sting off a little bit. Like, it's like they were like, okay, we won it last year. We won the national championship, but we beat North Carolina for the first time ever.
Yeah, that was cool.
And I tell you, man, I was down in partaking in some of the celebrations that night. Trust
I'm
me. And
sure.
it was fun. It was a great moment. I wish I was in Chapel Hill. That's the thing. I told Coach that later, it's like, man, it sucked because we were down there in New Orleans and you guys won it. And there was no Clemson media there. None.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't.
It was really disappointing that they didn't have us there, because trust me, I know Coach Levant, he would have celebrated with the media. He would have made us a part of all that. He would have let us into the locker room. He would have let us do all that stuff, because that's how Coach is, man. He's great.
He
He's one of
seems
my
like a
favorite
very
guys.
big guy.
Yeah, Levant, I know you got to go. Davis
right.
Potter's going to join us on the other side of this, but man, I know you got something to do. So appreciate you today, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Will.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
All right, man. Later, buddy.
Later.
All right. Levon Kirkland had to drop off there just because he had some stuff he had to get done. So I went to the bench and I got a guy who could come in and, he's about as big as Levon Kirkland as far as height goes. And, looks like he can play football. And that's Davis Potter. Davis, what are you like? You got your 6'4", and you're about 215, 220. You're ready to go, right?
215, yeah, 215 about 6-7 years ago. 275, 280, we're good.
We're good. See, man, there you go. That's like, Levon played at 290, 295 during his playing days at middle linebacker. So how can you cover the tight ends in the flats? Can you get them downfield, down the seam?
Probably not. No, you don't want me in coverage, man. I'm not a 3-down linebacker. That's all Dabo asked me if I could play offensive line another week because that's what I'd probably be good at.
Yeah. Well, you think you can play how good would you be? Let's just go ahead and get into it, man. This is
right
recruiting
now?
questions. Yeah. Let's just get into the recruiting questions right now.
Okay.
So how good would you be as an offensive? If you play guard, would you want to play guard or center or tackle, first of all?
Guard. I would not want to snap the ball and then have to block. I want to keep it as simple as possible. So I just give me one assignment.
So you want to play guard. So basically you just want to be a downhill blocker, no zone blocking at all.
Pretty much. Yeah. Just let me let me block the guy in front. Keep it as simple as possible. If we're going to be running a zone blocking scheme, just put me on second string. I mean, maybe I'll try to get a little better, but probably not. I'm just keep it simple. Keep it simple for me. Hit the guy in front of you. If I have to do much more than that, probably not going to be very good. But I think I could move some people. I'd do that.
Yeah, I like your answer though. You said let me hit some people in front of me.
Yeah.
So I like that because that tells me you're like a guy that likes to get your hands in the ground and get dirty, and get physical. That's kind of what Clemson needs on the offensive line, I think. I think that's a perfect marriage right there, man. That's let's do it, dude. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, maybe they need it from a 22, 23-year-old, not a 33-year-old. So.
Well, come on, man. Look, Chris Weinke did it. What was he, 43 when he did it? I mean,
that's true. That's true. He played quarterback.
He played quarterbacks. He can do it. You can do it. Come on. All right. So in all seriousness, though, man. First of all, we'll just start off there. The offensive line, though, did play better this past week. We're all joking aside. Yeah. They looked better. They were more physical at the point of attack. Still had some issues, but not as much as we've seen the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, and you're not going to convince me that it didn't have anything to do with Matt Bockhorst moving back to guard, even if it was on the right side. I mean, I think if you go back and watch Kobe Pace's touchdown run, that 59-yarder early in the first quarter, go look at Bockhorst and Hunter Rayburn double team the tackle and just drive them about 3 or 4 yards deep. I have not seen that kind of movement from the interior of their line all year. Because if you go back and watch that play, like Walker Parks handled the end, and then they just like I said, caved in the inside of that line. I mean, that's why the hole was so damn big. And Kobe Pace wasn't touched on what was their longest play from scrimmage this season. So, Dabo, I actually asked him that after the game, because Matt was filling in for Will Putnam, which is one of the injuries I'm sure we're going to talk about. But, I asked, because he doesn't think it's a long-term deal with Will Putnam. And he said earlier this week he's feeling better and he's hopeful he'll be back for the Syracuse game. But whenever they do get Will Putnam back, I asked Dabo, once that happens, do you think about just moving Matt back to left guard and keeping Rayburn at center and going with that combination? Of course, they sort of, we're gonna evaluate everything and all that stuff. But I think that looks so much better, just in terms of the push and the cohesion from that group. I don't know it. I don't know enough about the intricacies of that position in the line to know how much all the chemistry. I mean, I know it's a big deal to play with all 5 guys and all season, which is another thing to have it do. I mean, they've had 3 different starting combinations in the first 5 games on the offensive line. So number one, they got to figure out we're basically at the halfway point here. I mean, they got to figure out what combination works best and go with that. It's interesting they put Marcus Tate back in there at left guard, and he seemed like that was probably maybe his best game of the year, after getting pulled from the starting lineup against NC State. So, we'll see what they decide to do, but I just thought I think Matt's much more comfortable at guard. I mean, that's what he's played throughout his whole college career. And then, they lose Cade Stewart. Now you're asking him all of a sudden to rep somewhere he's never repped, at least in college. I don't know if he's even repped there in high school. I can't remember if he said that or not, but it looks so much better. That what people don't realize too, or maybe look past from that Boston College game. That was a pretty good Boston College defense coming in. I mean,
98 yards a game rushing.
Yeah, I mean, they were undefeated for or I should say their defense had a big part in why they were undefeated coming into that game. Because again, they're playing with a backup quarterback, and he looks a little bit better than a backup quarterback. Dennis Grosel or whatever his name was.
He started like 11 games in his career, so that's not like he started 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's not your typical backup, but their defense is a big reason why they were undefeated coming into that game. And So, and I think their defensive line had a big part to do with that. And like I said, I just think because and Dabo said this even throughout the year that they've been pretty good at tackle with McFadden and Walker Parks, and they really expected that because McFadden is an all-conference guy. You ask Dabo will tell you he's the best tackle in America. Not sure about that, but he's a good player, obviously, and they like what they have at tackle. But the interior of that offensive line has been the biggest concern all season, and I thought they looked the best that they have against Boston College. And I again, you won't convince me it won't have something to do with moving Bachhorst back to guard where he was a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, if betonline.ag is our sponsor here, so on the show, one of our sponsors. And so if I'm a betting man, I'm going to go to betonline.ag and I'm going to say this. Matt Bachhorst is starting at left guard when they play at Syracuse. There's no doubt in my mind because you have to. You got Will Putnam, a guy who started every game last year at right guard. If he's healthy and ready to go, you put him right back where he was. And then you put Matt back at left guard and you go with Rayburn at center. I think that's a win-win for Clemson because now you got a veteran player and a veteran player. You got two veterans playing at guard now instead of a freshman, especially going on the road. I think that's a better move for Clemson. I think that's what you're going to see. I mean, I'd lay all my money down. The only reason Matt Bachhorst doesn't start is if Dabo's going to give me an okey doke just for an okey doke's sake. And that's it. He's going to hear this podcast. I'm going to show Davis and Will, I'm going to show them, we're going to start Tate over there.
Well, I'll tell you, Dabo is coming on this. If he's listening to our podcast, making his personnel decisions based on our conversation, he's doing it wrong.
There's a reason why they're 3-2 if that's the case.
But another thing too that I didn't even mention is the fact that Rayburn looked pretty good. I mean, he had outside of that one low snap, I think it was there in the second half at some point. Other than that, I mean, it didn't. I mean, there wasn't any noticeable mistakes and miscues on his part that I saw, or I think anybody else saw. So I think, Dabo said he was proud of the way Rayburn stepped in there and played. You remember the only reps, he competed with Bachhorst in fall camp for center, yet the only game reps he had gotten up until Saturday was at guard.
Exactly.
So again, you move him to a position he's more comfortable with. You get Bachhorst back to a position he's more comfortable, assuming again that Will Putnam's healthy, as you alluded to. But yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't go with that lineup just to get guys back at positions they're more comfortable repping at.
Now, we mentioned Putnam's injury. He's one of 21 guys that have been banged up or are banged up right now. 7 guys are out for the season, which is crazy. I can't remember a single time Clemson's had this many players out, and not just reserve guys, but frontline guys, that are out for the season as they've had here. And just it's crazy. It started but actually started before the preseason started. It started with Taquan Johnson, tearing his, I guess it's a pec muscle, right? And he was out for the year. So, and that's when it all started. And it really hadn't gotten any better for Clemson. It's gotten worse. You did a story on it the other day. And with all the injuries and what Dabo said, and I love Dabo's comments, man. He said it looked like they got he says we had so many yellow jerseys out there we could win a bowl game with that team.
Yeah. I'm not sure that he's far off with that either. He was joking. There may have been some truth to that.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So let's talk to that there. Like, first of all, Dabo says he thinks all of them, he can get most of them back by Sunday, the ones that can come back. Do you think that's going to be the case?
Man, that's so tricky. You just, because a lot of this stuff is nagging and can be nagging. And even the concussion, you don't ever know with concussion protocol, which is what Justin Ross and Braden Galloway are in. Now, Dabo did say that, Justin's he took a shot to the head, but it was more precautionary, he thought, just because of his situation and coming off the spinal fusion surgery that, anytime he gets hit in the head, neck area I think they're going to be super cautious with that. And they just wanted to get him out just to make sure. So it sounded like Braden's might've been a little bit more serious of a hit, maybe a more direct hit. I'm not sure. He didn't really clarify. But and all it takes is a guy to have a head, he can be 2-3 days into the protocol, be close to getting clear. And then if he has a headache, then you got to start the process all over again. Or so,
right.
So that's a little more unpredictable. Putnam, Dabo said the bottom of his foot was black and blue the week after the NC State. That injury, he said, actually happened the first series of NC State, and Will Putnam never said anything about it. He just kept playing.
That's my kind of football player.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But I saw. I mean, it sounded pretty bad. I mean, it made me think when I was sitting there listening, like, the guy might maybe have a broken toe or something. I mean, I don't know, but Dabo said he expects him to be back at some point. So
he's an offensive lineman, man. Just wrap that up and put him in there, man. He's offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He ain't he ain't one of those doggone wide receivers. Something it's like a Porsche, where you just got to go order the parts from Germany and they come in. He's like, he's like, you just go ahead and wrap that up, put him back out there. He's good to go.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with that is even if they're tough, that still hurts. It still
hurts.
Performance,
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
You're an offensive lineman. You would know though.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you, if I was hurt, it'd hinder my performance even more, which probably wouldn't be good to begin with. But Frank Ladson dealing with a groin, EJ Williams dealing with a knee, and in addition to that torn thumb ligament he's got. So I don't know. I don't know how EJ Williams is doing it right now.
To be honest with you,
I mean, how are you a receiver and out there trying to catch passes with a torn thumb ligament? That's hard. Talk about hindering your performance.
And again, it's DJ throwing you the ball. It's not like DJ throws soft passes.
Yeah, no, he won't be confused for throwing changeups.
No.
He's got one pitch, man. One pitch.
It's a fastball.
Yeah. I don't even have to put down a signal if I'm the catcher, man. Just put my target, try to hit it. But I don't know, man. It's that's the thing. A lot with I feel like Putnam's probably a guy that they can get, because that's if it's just like a deep bruise or a turf toe thing or something, you can probably get back within a week or so. But a lot of this stuff's it can turn into nagging injuries if you're not careful. If you don't rest, if you try to rush to get back too soon. So I don't know. We'll see what they say at the beginning of next week. We don't have any more media availabilities with Dabo or any of the coaches or players this week. So I think the next time we'll get him is Sunday. So we'll see what happens.
What do we know about on the defensive side with Capehart? He had the knee scope before the season started. Yeah. He didn't really participate in camp at all. Mm-hmm. Where do we know where he's at right now? I have people asking me, and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. What do we know right now?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I've forgotten to ask about an update. I think a lot of people on the beat have, just because there's been so many new injuries pop up that that are more fresh when we're asking about. But Dabo did say a couple. I think it was after the Georgia Tech game, maybe. It was after one of the first 2 or 3 games. Yeah, he said he was still out trying to deal with that knee injury and get it right. So that's probably a good question to ask him early next week, just to see if there's any further update on him. I mean, I haven't heard, so I'm not sure. But it sounds like he's probably still at least a little bit. I mean, he hasn't played obviously since Dabo said that a few weeks ago. So it sounds like he might be a little ways away still.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm seeing too, or feeling too. I know Will Shipley is a injury a lot of people are wondering about. Of course, maybe you don't have to worry about him too much right now because of the way that Kobe Pace and Maffa played this past week against Boston College. But we've heard Will Shipley's just a different kind of cat than anybody. Mm-hmm. And so my question is here, here's people have asked me, and this is what I've told them. I don't think he's going to come back, obviously, for Syracuse. I really be surprised, especially if the running game is going well with the other 2 guys. He'll be surprised they'll bring him back for Pittsburgh. I can see him come back maybe for that Florida State game. That's almost a month. That kind of let him heal. He was on crutches the other day, right? I mean, he wasn't even walking on his own. So that tells me that injury is probably not a little more severe than maybe they originally thought. That's the way I took it.
Yeah, and Dabo did say, after that injury against NC State that he would be on crutches for a few weeks before he, I guess, works back. Yeah, that's going to be interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to rush these things back, but you bring up the Pitt game, and I just wonder, because I know we're going to talk about this, maybe get into this a little later, but that's a game they're going to have to score some points. They're not winning that game if they can't score more than 20 points. So I wonder if that might be a game where they're try to get him back by that week, if possible. If it's not just the injuries, healed enough where it's not still just killing him, and it's just not worth it, to the kid. But I do wonder. I would agree with you. He's out I'd be shocked if he played against Syracuse. but I do wonder if they might try to get him back for Pitt, just because I think they're going to need as many weapons as possible to score as many points as they can in that game, because Pitt they're lighting it up right now offensively. I mean, I think they're number 2 in the country in scoring.
That's right.
Top 5 in total yards. So that, again, I mean, we talk about the schedule they have left. That's a game they're going to have to score some points. So I just wonder if that's a game that they might have circled in pencil as, hey, we need to try to get that guy back for that week if possible.
Yeah, if you cross games over and you say, okay, you look at Clemson against Georgia Tech and them against Georgia Tech, so maybe Clemson can get up into the 20s, but Pitt's going to score in the 30s maybe. And that's the kind of thing where, and like you said, we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, you're right. That's a game where Clemson's definitely got to worry. What do we know about Malcolm Green, Mario Goodrich, and Fred Davis? All guys have been out the last couple of weeks with different injuries. Yeah. What do we know about them?
So I'll start with Malcolm Green. He's dealing with a bum shoulder. Dabo said he could have played Saturday. He's been practicing, could have played if they needed him to, but just didn't feel good about it. So yeah, I think he's a lot further along than he was maybe 2 weeks, because he missed the last 2 games. So I think he's a lot longer, much further along, I should say, than some of the other guys that are banged up and having the bye week. To have that extra week to rest up. I think he'll probably be good for Syracuse. Mario Goodrich, I guess he had that groin. He's got a groin injury, and I'm guessing he did it sometime in the first half against NC State, because I remember looking out, even asking some other reporters in the press box, like, Malcolm Green, Mario Goodrich, where'd he go? Because it was basically Sheridan Jones.
Yeah, he disappeared. Yeah.
And then he didn't play last week. So, and so I don't know. I mean, again, that's groins it could be 2 or 3 days. It could be 3 weeks, who knows? But I think, having the bye week, I think those guys that are hurt, that are dealing with different things, some of these nagging, I would be shocked if they're practicing much, if at all, this week, just because you are to have this extra week to try to get them back. So you're probably trying to rest them as much as possible. And then Fred Davis is, rolled his ankle, Dabo said. Thought he might be able to go last week, but I think they held him out more as a precaution. I think it's probably still bothering him some, but just don't want to rush him back with that. Again, with I think that coaching staff, knowing the bye week was looming after the Boston College game, I think they held out anybody that didn't feel really good. If they were going to hold him out just because that bye week was coming up, and they give him 2 weeks to try to get rested up and try to get better for their game at Syracuse.
What do we know about Frank Ladson and his injury? Again, I think that's a growing injury also. And Frank is like, we talked about jokingly earlier about, when we're talking about the offensive linemen there, you just wrap them up and throw them back out there. It's the wide receivers and stuff that you got to worry about when they get injuries. This is a groin injury for a guy who has to run fast. Yeah. And has to cut and stuff. This is not a good injury for a wide receiver to have, right?
No, it's not. So I don't know, man. That's why I think Frank Ladson, I'd be shocked if he's practicing at all this week, because it is. I mean, that's something that basically you can't. If you feel anything in your groin, you're only. It's only going to get worse if you try to go out there and run full speed, make cuts as a receiver. I mean, it's hard to heal a groin injury or receiver during the season. So I don't know if you're, just considering the injury and considering the position, that might be an injury you're worried about the most, just because it's again, that particularly for a receiver and a guy that has to get out there and run fast. The only way to really heal that is rest. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. That's going to be a tricky one all season long. I tend to think he probably won't play. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I tend to think, if that's a groin injury and it can't get better, he doesn't make a whole lot of progress with it over the bye week, I'd be surprised if we saw him against Syracuse.
Davis Potter from the Clemson Insider is joining us today as he fills in for Levon, joining us on his regular Wednesday thing, but he agreed to say, hey, Will, I'll hang with you the whole hour, man, so you're not by yourself for the rest of the podcast. And I appreciate that, man. That's that keeps people from listening to my stupidity too much. You know what I'm saying?
Happy to help.
So appreciate you doing it. So in all fairness, though, as we look at this team, man, have you in your career, you've been doing this for quite a while now. I've done it for 17 years. And I've never seen a Clemson team this beat up in my career. I've been covering them since 2004. Never have I seen it this bad. Can you remember in your career just covering Ole Miss, covering Auburn, Wyoming? Have you seen anything like this that compares to it?
The only thing I can think of that would come close is I can't remember if it was the 13 or 14 season. And Ole Miss was without 5 defensive starters against a game that they played at home against LSU. And that was when LSU had Mettenberger, Jarvis Landry, OBJ, had some dudes. I think it was the 13 season. And they, everybody was like, how in the world are they going to stop this offense? And they ended up beating them. Pulled off the upset in Oxford. So that's the one scenario that comes to mind when I think about injuries and the worst situation I've ever seen as a beat writer covering a team. That would be the closest thing. But yeah, this is it. Yeah, it just seems to be one, at least one new injury for Clemson every week, almost. As you mentioned, I mean, it started back in the preseason, Taquan Johnson, and then it was Dietrich Pennington being out, and Nolan Turner was out for a little while in the preseason.
Thought about Nolan Turner.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's crazy the way it and look, that's just sheer luck sometimes as a foot, because I mean obviously football, that's just the nature of the game. It's physical, injuries happen, but some years you go the whole season with just a handful. Other years you can, like Clemson's doing right now, you can have 20 pile up in a span of a month. With to various degrees of severity, but yeah, I mean it's not the greatest situation for sure if you're Clemson. That's why you hear all it gets cliche. This is a good time for a bye week. You hear that a lot of time with coaches, but I don't think there's a whole lot of coach speak from Dabo. I mean, when he says that, I mean, this is it really is a good. I mean, couldn't ask for a better time if you're Clemson with these injuries again continuing to pile up week after week. And I mean, a lot of the issue for a lot of these teams is getting to the finish line. Somewhat, how healthy are you? It's almost, sometimes it's not even about who's the best team. It's who's the healthiest team, who can survive the war of attrition, so to speak. So
and get healthy at the right time. And
yeah.
Clemson's been very fortunate during this run they've been on that they haven't had. I mean, they've had an occasional injury here or there, but for the most part, their big frontline guys really haven't been injured. I remember 2018, it's hard to remember any kind of big time injury at all. And same thing for 16. So they've been very fortunate during this run they've been on, going all the way back to 2011, if you will, to not really have too many serious injuries. They've had one or two here or there, and they've had their nicks and bruises like any team does. But this right here is just unprecedented to me. What they're going through. I'm sure other teams have gone through it, maybe even worse, but this has been something else. I've never seen it where, like you said, it seems like every week, it's Brian Brzee and Will Shipley one week, it's Tyler Davis one week, and then it's Will Taylor now. And then, I mean, it was Pennington, as you said. It's just nuts, man, how they've just guys are just dropping like flies over there. And so maybe the worst is done, and maybe now they can start building. When you've got a young team, especially on offense and offensive line, and you're trying to build chemistry and all this stuff, and these guys keep going down, and now you're a wide receiver. I mean, they had Will Brown and a Joe out there at one point. Yeah. These are guys that haven't played that much this year at all. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is Clemson's starting wide receivers right now. This is who they got out there. No wonder they're running the ball for 230 yards, because they're like, I don't know if we can throw it to anybody and get any kind of downfield weapons. I mean, what was it? EJ and Justin went out, and Braden Galloway all went out. And then you lost Davis Allen to the targeting. It's like all their weapons were gone.
Yeah. Yeah, they better. Yeah, they need to wrap Joseph Ngata in bubble wrap. If they lose him, man, let's go. You think the passing game's bad now?
I mean, no, you're right. It's something else. So, with that said, and we mentioned Dabo's talking about the bye week comes at the best time possible, and that's true. So when this team gets out of this bye week, they got to go to Syracuse, A Syracuse team that, let's be honest, they're playing a lot better. They're a lot more competitive than where a year ago. They probably got one of the best secondaries in the ACC. So Clemson, if people think Clemson's going to start throwing the ball all over the place against Syracuse, you might want to pay attention to what Syracuse has been doing the last couple of years. That's not going to happen. So you're going to have to run the football. This is a Syracuse team that's a little more physical than they have been the last couple of years too, especially up front. This is a big game for Clemson. And as you mentioned, after that, they got Pitt.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this. If they can survive these two games and not lose either one, I think Clemson's going to win the ACC. I really do. I think then they'll run the rest of the table out and win. But, man, these next two – Syracuse is not as hard as Pitt. I'm really looking at that Pitt game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really – I'm like you, man. I can't see Clemson score 24 points in that game, and they're going to have to score at least 24 points, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not willing to go as far as to say if they get through the back-to-back road games, Syracuse and Pittsburgh, that they're going to win the ACC, because, I mean, it'll all depend on what the offense looks like, because I do think, and I wrote about this after Saturday's game, but there were some glimmer of hope. There was a glimmer of hope for this offense because they finally moved the ball. 231 yards rushing. That was their second most all season. Most against an FBS opponent. Yes, that 200 yards passing. It should have had more, but their biggest issue was bogging down in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had 7 or 8 possessions that reached BC territory. 4 of those that reached at least the 25-yard line. One that they're late in the first half or second quarter where they got down to the 3, couldn't run it in. They had to settle for a field goal, but 4 BT Potter field goals. I mean, you score touchdowns on 2 of those possessions. What's that? 8 more points. So you're looking at 27 points in that game. So I think if you're a fan watching it, yes, DJ, I understand there's still some frustration with DJ, and that was one of the biggest talking points after the game was we should have had more yards passing because the way they ran the ball. They finally forced the defense to change what it does in the back end. Now, Tony Elliott did say, that's just sort of the way BC operates anyway. They like to play man with maybe some cover 1, cover 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way Clemson was running that ball, I think they forced Boston College to drop defenders into the box more often than maybe they wanted to. And you got a lot of man coverage on the outside. And there were shots. I mean, Bo Collins beat his man a couple times. DJ simply overthrew him in the end zone one time. You had Ngata and a couple other, deep routes down the field. And that is the one element through 5 games that they have not been able to do anything on. I mean, they've missed, DJ's missed every deep ball just about that he's thrown. I mean, not counting like back shoulder throws. I'm just talking about like go routes,